So let's go with our formal introduction. Good morning, and welcome to Blu Business Basics, our monthly virtual Bigger and Better Business seminar series with various topics such as entrepreneurship, investments, or personal finance. This month's event is sponsored by the Lambda Sigma, Nu Psi Sigma, and Phi Beta Sigma chapters of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Special shout out to my brothers Edo Elize and Dale Burgess, who I always enjoy to collaborate with. There's our 2022 author, August. Today's guest is the author of the best-selling book, Read Me or Stay Broke. We met on Facebook around 2013. It's been a while. A few years later, I noticed he had written this book, which has an intriguing title. I knew that he was involved in financial planning before that time, and actually, so is his father, who I met first on Facebook. It's amazing you can meet on Facebook. It's not just a gossip place. You actually meet people who are doing stuff on there. And however, I know I wanted to read this book, but I am a professional procrastinator. I admit this. I am a professional procrastinator. And I didn't buy the book until recently. And we talked. I know I wanted to get you on Blu Business Basics for a while. And I said, I'm going to wait until I get you on here and wait to the end to read the book. So I make sure it's fresh in my mind. I didn't want to read it like 3 years out and come back. Okay, now I want to make sure it was fresh in my mind. So I finished reading it recently. I really love this book. I love the way you presented this information, because a lot of this information I had seen before in different venues, different books, but the way you presented it was very different by weaving it into a fictional story with a relatable character, a likable character that we could pull for. It made things, it made it a little more interesting to understand. It didn't get dry, it didn't get overwhelming, it didn't get into a lot of detail. You gave enough information for you to want to learn more about each subject. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you go ahead and do the talking, because you got more to talk about this on subject than I do. So today is our author, Mark Jackson II. Mark, the floor is yours, sir.
I just want to say thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here this morning to speak to everyone. Anyone who watches this recording later, thank you for taking the time to watch and enjoy. Again, my name is Mark Jackson II. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. I have 3 wonderful sons. I spent time in the United States Air Force, and my passion for financial education was kind of born out of the everyman situation. I was about 25 years old. I had followed the American dream. I used the military to get my degree. I was honorably discharged. I was working for the Department of Defense, and I took the safe, secure job model almost, to its extreme. And when I got to the end, or when I was feeling like I was secure, safe government job, can't get fired, gonna have retirement, I was like, what's wrong? Why am I still broke? I didn't understand. I was broke, and I could not comprehend if I followed the formula that they gave me, right? Go to college, get a job, work hard, put in your years, that everything would be okay. Well, I think I discovered 2 things that was happening. One, I was part of one of the generations that had pretty much been taught that formula was going to work. And then right when we reached the end, right about 2008, the market collapsed, the real estate market, and also companies started moving towards the job model where there wasn't the retirement plan, there wasn't the long, there was a turnover stuff. So we had worked our whole life to get this degree, to get these jobs. And then right when we got to the end, they were like, oh, no, you can't have that. You can't have that safe, secure job for 30 years with a pension no more. And by the way, it's 2008 and the real estate market is crashing. And so I was like, what's going on? Why can't I figure this out? And so I remember one day I just was at home, and I had my phone, and I was getting ready to listen to some music, and a ad popped up for audible.com, and it was a free app that I could download, and I got a free book when I downloaded it, and I was able to get this book called Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I listened to that book, and it blew my mind. about the things that you could do in real estate. Now, I had been exposed to real estate for a while. My father took me into real estate when I was 15, but when you're not really interested in something, you don't pick up all the things you need to because you're not doing it deliberately. Being a grown adult man with a job and children kind of made it a little bit more interesting information, what I was learning, and hearing the things that people were able to do financially with real estate made me be like, well, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to do that, you know. And then I even listened to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and so I like both of these books had me, you know, excited. I could get some assets. I'm gonna lower my liabilities. I want to get some property, and then I realized I couldn't do any of that because I was broke. And it made me so upset. So then, you know, go to a little seminar here, go to a little seminar there, still nothing because I'm learning things, but I don't qualify to do these things. I'm not in a position to do these things. And I think that's why a lot of people find that when they go to seminars, they learn about real estate or they find out about stocks and all this stuff, they feel like it's a scam because they spend money, they learn something, but then they can't implement any of it because the most important part is being skipped for them, which is their qualification to be able to do these things, right? And so I started to think, well, how do I get qualified? 'Cause I still wanted to do them, but I couldn't figure out what was keeping me from doing them, you know? And so I did more and more research. And as I did that research, I began to get upset because I realized that there was a systematic formula to be able to build wealth and passive income. See, I was always taught earned income, and most of us are taught earned income. Get a job, be able to keep that job, and then if you don't have enough money, you get another job. So that's all our minds are able to conceive as a way to be able to make more money. But there are more ways out here. And I'm not just talking about a side hustle, because a side hustle is still income. You still have a job, you still are going to get the money to bring the money back. But there are people out here who are making money with passive ways that money comes into them without them having to do the labor because they did the work up front and then the money continues to get produced. But a lot of us can't take advantage of that because you have to be able to qualify to be able to do that. And when I say qualify, I'll explain what I mean even more in a second. But once I discovered all these things, I was able to kind of finally crystallize in my mind what I was able to finally see. I mean, I have Audible right now. I told you I found it in 2010 by listening to one book. I have over 300 books in my Audible right now. And I've listened to them and I've read, you know, numerous books. And I thought to myself, well, how can I share this with other people without having to tell them to read 300 something books? And the idea started to formulate in my mind to write a book. But I had never been an author before that. So it wasn't like I went to school for English major. I'm a business administration major. The way I came to wanting to write a book was I realized that videos get deleted, content goes away, posts become old posts, and all that stuff was destructible. If you look at books in the world, most books, even though they could be burned individually, because there are many copies, once the knowledge is out there, it's kind of indestructible. You know, there are kids who read books right now who, you know, we all had to read in school, Shakespeare, you know, Plato, Aristotle. Like these books last for years and years and years. And I realized too that in most of our homes, even though I had happenstancely come upon Read Me or Stay Broke or come upon Rich Dad Poor Dad, there's a saying in, you know, some circles about certain, you know, group of people that if you put something in a book, that's the best way to hide it from them. And that's because they don't read. And so I wanted to kind of change that stereotype. And I also wanted to be able to have a book found in most homes that you could pick up, give to your kids, and it could keep getting passed along. That's why I made the book a hardcover book instead of a paper copy book, because I wanted it to hit the table with the weight of the importance of the information, but also last long on those shelves and be able to go years and years and years. So that's what made me say, I have to write a book because I need this information out there in a way that it can keep being transmitted, that it will last for a long time because this information is needed. Also, I wanted it to be able to transform our idea of what it is to make money or what it is to build wealth, and that people could follow along in the story. A lot of times now you have so many distractions, right? How could I write a book in an age where there's YouTube, where there's Instagram, where there's Snapchat, where there's all these different ways for you to be able to be distracted? So I decided to write a story. I had never read one of the financial education books that I read. Like, you know, as you said earlier, the books are kind of dry. They're kind of, the information is there, but I realized a lot of this information was boring. And if you notice, a lot of them are written in a kind of arrogant way.
Yes.
Right? They're written
talking down to people.
Right? Like
down to the reader.
Why didn't you know this? You should have known this. Like, you know, and I think that also comes into, you know, sometimes with the politics. It's like, what I realized was when I started being in the business world, I started seeing that the people who are kind of fiscally conservative, that believe that the other people are very, very lazy, the two sides have never seen each other, right? So on the one side is we need more taxes to be able to help with the situation we're going through. The other side is, why should I have to pay for you not being motivated? But here's the thing, you've never been so far down here that you can't see that what you knew and what you know and what you have access to, there's no access to it over here. So no matter how hard I go, I can't reach this level without the information gap. And over here, you think it's just greed because these people have access to something that you don't have access to. But if you knew what they knew, you would understand why they think the way they think. And here in the middle was where I could see both sides, right? And so the people that would write the books up here were kind of writing it for the people similar to them here. So it was harder for people here to understand because they didn't have the access. Right here in the middle where the qualification was, I couldn't cross over, right? Because over here, I'm never so broke that I don't have access to the things that allow me to have businesses, credit, and stocks, because I qualify, or I have the co-signers to help me qualify, or the people in my family that already know the information to open the doors. But over here, I don't have access to the information without student loan debt, or like you said, going to some seminars and stuff like that. So I wanted to find, where is that middle area? Where is the everybody can do this center? And I tried to put that in a book, in a story that held your attention, because as an author, I realized I have to be able to keep you reading because I wanted you to get the information. So I was like, if I write a story, you can follow along the story and you can get the information along the way. And that's why I wrote Read Me or Stay Broke the way that I did.
That was a good idea, because I've never seen a financial book written in that manner. Like I said, a lot of ones that you read, they talk to you on a certain level as if you just have $100,000 sitting around. Oh, just put your money in. Just put your money in this. That's so easy. Just do this. Just do that. I'm saying, like, who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. I work for a living. This is not realistic. Nothing in these books is realistic. Or like the Kiyosaki seminars. We talked about that before. I noticed they will always tell you how you can just buy real estate. And you kind of touched on this in one of your chapters too. Buying real estate with no money and no credit. But that's not quite how they present it. No. It sounds like you're just going to go out there. Oh, you don't have any money or any credit. Just go out and buy houses and rent them out. I'm thinking, huh?
Well, you know, but the reason why they explain it like that is the way that I just described, right? He's talking from over here, right? In a position where the things that he uses to acquire property are readily available, and he doesn't know how to, in the beginning, explain to people who he can't even imagine the world where the things that allow you, the loans, the mortgages, the access to credit that he already has, and most of the people he's talking to have, doesn't even understand a similar group of human beings, but their life circumstances doesn't even have that available to them. Think about this phrase: you don't know what you don't know.
You use that a lot in the book.
And the reason why I do that is because we have a guilt, right? The way our society is set up with financial importance is that we have somehow a guilt upon us for not doing as well financially as we should, or as people are saying that we should. When the biggest thing I want people to understand that read Me or Stay Broke or that are in a financial struggle. The biggest thing I want you to understand is that it is not your fault. Even if you have poor spending habits, it's not your fault. This is not intuitive information. Right? Financial information is not intuitive, which means it doesn't just come out of your subconscious with an aha moment. This is specific knowledge. So if you are not taught the proper way to spend, if you never took a personal finance class, if credit is not broken down to you, you get access to credit before you even understand what it is. It's like you have to go and do 6 hours of driving and take a test before you can have a driver's license and get on the road and drive a car. Imagine if they gave you a car without explaining it to you, right? The reason why they don't do that is because you can crash and you can harm others. Most financial things are only self-harming. So it doesn't matter if I give you access to credit at 18 years old or in college and you destroy yourself financially, because me as a bank or me as a lender in the future, it's only to my benefit that you're a poor borrower because I can have a higher interest rate on you. So that's financial education is not explained to us for that reason and for a second reason. The second reason is the government does not produce anything of like, it's not a business. It sells things, it contracts out things, it works with the public, but politicians do not produce a product, but they still get paid. How do they get paid? They get paid by taxes. So if I put a person that's getting out of high school into student loan debt, into credit card debt, make them buy a car with their job, make them buy a house with their job, and now they have a mountain of debt on their head as they even reach 23, 24 years old. What did I do? I put them in a position where they have to continuously keep a job, which produces income tax continuously for me, because they're never going to get out of that hole. That's another reason why most of the public education is not catered towards teaching you financial education, because the more income tax producing people I can create, the better it is for the economy. That's why they always say that the sign of a strong society is a big middle class. Yeah, a big bunch of people with a house they can't afford, a car they can't afford, a job they have to keep, credit card debt to make ends meet, and no understanding of building passive income or creating financial wealth, except for stick a little bit of money in your 401k as the market does all of this out of your control, and you got to sit there and pray. So I wanted to make sure, how can we stop that and combat that idea? Did that make sense?
Oh, sure. Also, you mentioned the 401, also the ones in the savings accounts. What give you 1% interest?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, like it's again,
you
man.
get nothing off these savings accounts.
Right. So what I wanted
Money's not working for you.
So what I wanted people to do was to be able to be more in control. Okay. So I'm gonna do a little screen share. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper. I want to say, all right, so this is the Read Me or Stay Broke checklist. If you ever read through Read Me or Stay Broke, if you buy the book, it'll be available here in a second on the bottom of my slide for the formula. But in the book, Joshua meets a woman and she issues him a challenge. And this challenge is what allows him to flow through the areas of financial education and help you build a better life. So he has to meet his mentors right here. You must use the knowledge of the mentors we give you to complete research from their advice. Using that research, you must complete this checklist. It is our hope that you will discover through this process the secret of the rich. We hope that you can enhance your understanding through your experience trying to create wealth by working to complete this checklist. And if you, as a reader, try to complete this checklist, there's almost no way that you can't become financially independent. So if you can get yourself to 6 months of savings, so all of your bills, you have 6 months. One good concept that I can say did come out of Read Me or Stay Broke, out of Rich Dad Poor Dad, is Robert Kiyosaki talks about a gentleman named Buckminster Fuller. Buckminster Fuller has a definition of wealth that I think is accurate, and he thought is accurate as well. They define wealth as your ability to survive so many days forward. So what that means is you're as wealthy as the amount of money that you have that allows you to go days without working, right? So if I earn $2,000 a month and I have $4,000 in savings, I'm 2 months wealthy beyond that point if I was to stop working. So the more time you have amount of money to your bills, the wealthier you are. So 6 months of savings means that if anything was to happen right now or something bad was to happen to you, you could survive 6 months without having to work your job. I'm telling you, from being broke and being in debt, there is no sleep like I have some savings sleep, other than compared to waking up like, oh my God, I gotta, or sleep or trying to go to sleep while stuff is behind. Your mind is constantly like having to go on that. So if you can get 6 months of savings, if you can move the best you can towards being debt free, if you can have a credit score over 700 or above, if you can owe no taxes, if you can own a business that makes money without you being there, if you can have a portfolio of stocks, and if you can own some income property, if you can accomplish this checklist, I pretty much guarantee you will be financially successful. So I'm going to describe for you now how these components work together. And I'm going to go over the 3 things that I said I was going to explain in this presentation. 1, the formula itself, the proven formula for wealth. And 2, how credit is used as a superpower. And 3, what is and how to overcome financial discrimination. This is my site, Read Me or Stay Broke. I'm going to go through the formula in just a second. But this is where Read Me or Stay Broke is available. You can get a copy now. I work with organizations all across the country, 100 Black Men of America, Jack and Jill Foundation, this organization that we're speaking with today. I go all around and I try to help everybody the best I can understand financial education.
You should just send the checklist.
Still on the checklist?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on one second. I don't, it should be screen share, let's see, let me stop the screen share and let's do it again. You can see my screen now?
Yeah, I see collective success.
All right, excellent. So now let's go to the website.
There you go.
Thank you for helping me. So this is the website, Read Me or Stay Broke. Has all my, you can buy a copy of Read Me or Stay Broke on here. And then it also explains that I work with these different organizations, sponsorships. This is an organization, 100 Black Men of America. I help them give scholarships out to kids based on them being able to use Read Me or Stay Broke in a competition to start a fictional business and apply the principles of Read Me or Stay Broke. And then we do a contest, and kids who come up with the best business, we then take it and we help them get to college with scholarships and stuff. So now let's move to the formula. All right, now we're in the good stuff. Okay. Can everyone see this formula? Yes, no? Everybody.
It's on.
Excellent. How you doing, Calvin? Wonderful, wonderful. Again, now we're gonna take a minute right here, and I'm gonna really get into this. I'm gonna ask you to please ask questions and dive in, because I feel like I do a good job of explaining it, but I want, as a teacher, as an instructor, my main core purpose is to make sure that you understood what I was saying. I don't look at it like I'm gonna do so good breaking this down. I know how to break it down, but I love deliberate, connected understanding by the reader and the listener. All right, this is way simpler than it seems. This is the Read Me or Stay Broke formula. As you can see right here, I'm gonna give an overview, then I'm gonna break them down each one. If you have good savings plus low debt plus good credit, you can overcome financial discrimination. This equals qualification and your ability to use credit as a superpower to then get real estate, stocks, business, and build wealth. And wealth is defined as continuous tax advantaged passive income. Savings, debt, credit, real estate, stocks, business, and tax are the chapters and the components to being able to build wealth. So the first thing I'm going to dive into is financial discrimination. Financial discrimination, and I think we all have experienced this in some form or fashion, is you try to get a car, you try to get a house, you try to start a business and you go into the bank or you try to do it and you are not able to receive the money that you're asking for. Has anybody experienced anything like that? Or if you're getting your house and you put in for a mortgage, right? They tell you the amount of money that you qualify for. Has anyone experienced that?
Oh, of course.
Excellent. When most people run into this issue, the reason why I call it financial discrimination is because you do not know what is preventing you from being able to get over that hurdle. When most people go for the first time to get a car, to get a house, it's a little bit better world now because we have Credit Karma, Experian. These people are actively trying to sell these products more. I can't remember who did it first, but at some point somebody was like, you know what? I'm going to stop charging people for their credit report. Prior to about like 2015, 2016, if you wanted to get your credit report, you even had to know that it exists. Most people don't even know that they have a credit report, that they have a credit score, and they don't even know the components or the things that go into it. And credit and savings and debt are the things that prevent a person from being able to access money that is not earned income yet. And so the things that a lot of people are doing that you're not able to do, they're not just doing it off the money left over from their paycheck. They're able to borrow, and they're able to use what they borrow to create more money. But because most people or some people do not know the formula for overcoming discrimination, they just run into the wall of the barrier of you are not allowed to have this. When you go to the bank, and you can see this in the credit chapter of Read Me or Stay Broke, Joshua goes into the bank and he wants to be able to get something. The lady that he meets explains to him that he just doesn't qualify. He doesn't qualify to be able to do the things that he wants to do. This is the other reason why most people feel like there's a scam or they're being played when they go to one of those seminars, right? You go to the Robert Kiyosaki seminar, or you go to one of these real estate seminars, stock seminars, you buy these programs that's on these ads and stuff that you have on Instagram and stuff. And what happens is you cannot implement any of the things that you have learned because you have no qualification to go past the point of what they're explaining to you. Right in the middle that they don't tell you about is come to the class. You get to the class. I'm going to explain to you all the stuff right over here. You get this. You understand it conceptually. It makes perfect sense. You want to do it. You're ready to dive in. But then in the real world, here's this little space right here that they didn't tell you that your savings, your debt, and your credit were going to be taken into consideration by the person that wants to give you the money to be able to do this thing. And right here, you're told you can't do it. You don't qualify yet. You're not able to do this. And when they fall into this space right here, this is when discouragement comes, because it ain't a snap of the finger to get out of debt. It's not a snap of the finger to get your credit right. It's not a snap of the finger to be able to save some money for your paycheck. This is a compounded factor over years and years of you not knowing that they were going to be the things that had to make you qualify. So financial discrimination is you don't know what you don't know. And then when you run into the wall of, it's so crazy because you don't even, it's not even self-evident when it happens. When it happens, you still feel like it's run by some outside forces, right? I come into the bank and I'm like, hey, I'd like to get this car. I want to apply for a car loan. They're like, okay, you're sitting over there. This person's sitting over here. Ask you some particular information, type it up. Let me see what happens on my side. You're on that side. No, you don't qualify. That's it.
I like the part in the book where she asked the guy, where she asked him for money.
in the elevator?
I love that because he got it then. Would you give me money? I don't know you. Well, I just want you to give me money. I'm a good person. But some people think that's how it works.
Exactly. Right.
I've had friends who actually told me they got mad because they couldn't get something because they said it was racism. And I'm like, no, you had no way to pay them back.
So the beautiful part is financial discrimination, well, excuse me, I don't want to preface it like that. The beautiful part about what you described just now is that the epiphany of not realizing that financial discrimination is legal.
Yep.
It is the only
what you told me,
legal
thank
form. It's the only legal form of discrimination. And it's not even described the way that I'm describing it. I describe it as discrimination because you're not given the tools to be able to qualify prior to you getting there. So it almost feels deliberate, right? It almost feels deliberate. There, you know, I'm not saying it's racism, but the way the information is trickled down and the way that it flows gives it a kind of hint of, is this being done to us on purpose, right? It draws the question in the mind. But financial discrimination is illegal, right? Once the Civil Rights Act passed, and even some more of the current laws, I can't do race, gender, sexual orientation. I can't use age. I can't use any of those things to say, no, you can't have this. But I can say your credit score, your amount of money you can put on your down payment, and your previous amount of debt do not let you qualify for this. So I can deny you financial opportunities based on your behavior, but I don't take into account that it was uninformed behavior.
That it's not just cars and houses too. They use that credit report also for your utilities. You can't. They tell you you can't get utilities because if you have something on your credit report, or even your car insurance. They use that. They use your credit report to jack up your car insurance.
100%.
So it goes everything.
We take financially destructive behaviors not knowing the future consequences because we're not informed, right? So in order to overcome financial discrimination, as I've just described, you need to be able to have a good amount of savings. What I try to tell people is the best you can, you want to try and maybe fit your expenses into 70% of what you make, because it allows you to have 3 more sets of 10 to be able to do other things. So you take your bills and expenses, and this is not, easy, but it can be done. And so you can start really at 90 if you want to. You try and fit, and you get rid of what you need to get rid of, right? You got too much cable, you got too many streaming services. You know where you're overspending, and you can start to retain some of your income and begin to save little by little. Seeds grow into trees, So, and the reason why you want to be able to have that available, one, like I said before, you want some comfort, you want some emergency, you want to be able to breathe a little bit and not knowing you have to go paycheck to paycheck. And if you missed one, everything would collapse, right? But even more so, it provides you future down payment money for things that you want to be able to purchase, as well as some collateral and ability to be able to put something on, maybe a mortgage or something like that. But you need to be, step one is to be able to take some of your income and save it for yourself. The second step is debt. We all experience debt, right? It's a saying that says the debtor is a slave to the creditor, right? Because you always have somebody in your pocket. I remember working at when I was working for the Department of Defense, I remember I could see my paycheck with the stuff already taken out of it. Like I kind of had my bills in my mind, so I couldn't even get as excited as I want to, because I would see my check, but I know it was way less than that because I already know all of the things that are coming out, and a lot of times that comes from debt. So a way that I teach people to get out of debt is you take all of your debt and you write it down and you put it on a spreadsheet. And this is not easy. I want to explain that for a second. And I don't mean easy in the task. I mean easy in emotion. I think for some people, you don't want to see how bad it is. And it's almost like they say admitting you have a problem is the first step to solving your problem. Being honest with ourselves and saying, okay, I have this X amount of debt, even though it's painful to look at because it seems like a large number and I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of that. The first step is to see where it is, because we can't solve a problem without identifying the problem. So you have to be strong enough or look deep inside enough after I've explained this to you to know where you're going, so that it doesn't bother you to say, okay, I have this amount of debt, but I know what I'm about to do about this. So you have to take all of your debt, And whether it's a spreadsheet or a sheet of paper, you write, you can even use your credit report, really. But you get your debt, you write it down. After you've written it all down, you can see all of them. You start with the smallest one, and you have your paycheck. You start with the smallest one and you pay it down with a affordable amount of money. Once you do that, you take that money and you move it to the next one and you start paying that one down, right? The amount keeps getting bigger because you're going from debt to debt, but you're using the money that you are already spending to pay off your debt. And so it begins to have kind of like this snowball effect. I read a book by Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University or Financial Peace, and he talks about this. It's called the Debt Snowball. You take your all your debt and you make all your minimum payments at the same time. Make your minimum payments, but on the first one, you pay it as much as you can to get rid of it, the smallest one first. Now you're already used to spending the money on the first one, so you take that money and you don't keep it now. What you do is once that debt is gone, you add that payment to the next minimum payment. Now you're paying off the next one faster. Then you take those two and you put it on the third one. That's the best way I've seen to help speed along the process of removing your debt. Other ways is you can bring in chunks of income from other things, because you don't have to do these steps individually based on how you're able to function. Once you get a little bit of breathing room to kind of overcome financial discrimination, if you're able to do a little stocks, if you're able to do a little side hustle and bring in some more income, you definitely can dump that on your debt faster. But if you only are working with just your paycheck right now and you begin to live off 90 or 70, you can take some of that money, you can start paying those debts and you can roll that down. But you want to try and get, you don't have to get absolutely to zero before you're able to continue to move forward, but you want to try and reduce it, because people use your debt to income ratio to be able to determine whether to let you borrow money. So the more debt you have versus how much you make, lets a lender know how much money is available for you to pay them back. So the lower your debt is, the more money they see is available for you to give to them on payments back, which makes you a better borrower, because you do have the money to be able to give them the money back or to pay back your lending. Credit, and we'll get into credit as a superpower in a second, but credit is where the rubber meets the road. And in my book, you'll learn about the factors that make your credit go up, the factors that make your credit go down. If you have access right now or you don't, you want to get Credit Karma or any type of credit monitoring app, because you want to be able to see where and who have you indebted to them, because it will show up on your credit report. That's why I say you could kind of use your credit report to help you write down your debt list, because in your credit report or on your credit app, there's a button where you can say, oh, let me look at my credit. And they'll show you, you have this many collections, you have this many open loans, you have this many credit cards, and you can see all of your balances. You can see your score. And you can now be deliberate about increasing your credit score, deliberate about bringing down what you owe. Because as your debt goes down, it's beautiful, they work hand in hand. As your debt goes down, your credit will increase. And so if you have good savings, if you have low debt, and then you have high credit, this makes you a better borrower. And that's how you overcome financial discrimination. These institutions who are lenders are looking for an ability. They make money on money. That's their product. They sell you money, and then depending on how you use it, it doesn't matter, because their interest rate is going to be based on your credit score, and your ability to pay it back is what they're going to use to be able to decide whether they're going to give you the money or not. So you want to become a better borrower, because that's where we reach qualification. So do we have any questions about this first part that I just went over? Anybody?
Makes sense to me.
Okay. So if you have these three components, you can overcome financial discrimination, and then you get to qualification. This is where we want to get to, because qualification allows us to use credit as a superpower. So what I mean by that is this. There are people out here that for years have used other people's money to be able to do real estate, to be able to buy stocks, to be able to start a business. Have you ever heard of business loans? Have you ever heard of a mortgage? I didn't know, but I learned that people actually borrow also to do stocks. This is the difference between how two different elements of society use credit. One side uses credit to overspend as well as catch the bills that they can't afford. So that's how some people are taught to be able to use credit. And then they're taught just make your minimum payments. I remember when I was younger, I didn't even know anything about Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax, which are the three credit bureau monitoring bureaus that determine the things that go on your credit report. I had no clue they existed. I had no clue what made my credit score go up. I had no clue what made my score go down. I just was told, make your payment every month on time. And so I thought as long as I was making the minimum payment every month on time, that I was doing the right thing, because that was the extent of my knowledge. And I did not know what I did not know. And so I had a poor credit score that I didn't even know how to look up or research. I just had my card, and I would use my card when I needed to use my card, and I would pay some on it when I could pay on it. Little did I know, I was destroying my credit. And then I would miss payments, right? I have cards maxed out. The card would get canceled. The debt would still be there. The interest rate would still be there until they closed out the account. Have a $1,500 credit card, maxed out, not making a payment, let it go away. Next thing you know, all my credit is sitting $4,000 something because it's on a 20 something interest rate. And that's how much I owe now. The card is closed, and I have to figure out how I'm going to be able to pay them back. The good thing I've discovered through all my reading is you can settle some of those amounts. So I don't know how many people know this, but while you're doing your debt cancellation or dropping your debt down, you can call, because if you use your credit report, you can see who you owe and you can see their phone number on there. You can actually call them and you can say to them, how much do I owe on this collection? How much do I owe on this balance that I have to give back to you? And they'll negotiate with you. I think that $4,000 credit card, I was able to pay that off for only a $2,500 payment. So I didn't have to pay the whole $4,000. They just wanted some.
And they go to collections?
Yeah, because there are companies out here who are
okay, because they only buy for they buy for a pittance of what it's worth anyway. So if it was $4,000, they probably bought it for $2,000 or even $1,500.
Yeah, because the credit card company can write it off as a loss. It'll still be on your credit. So the credit card company doesn't take a hit, right? Then they already get some of their money from the collection company, which is good enough for them. Then the collection company has it to try and get from you, but they'll take a lower amount. So you can negotiate some of these amounts. Exactly. But my greater point is, this set of society is taught that it's here for emergencies, and then they irresponsibly also use it to overspend. Over here, people use credit to make money, then pay back the money and keep the income. Think about that. Credit as a superpower allows you to access more money than you currently have available to you, use that money to generate a profit, pay back the loan, keep the income. That's what makes credit a superpower. For instance, if I have good savings, low debt, and good credit, I jump right over financial discrimination to qualification. Now, when I'm speaking to the lady at the bank, I'm a benefit to her, not a liability, because when I come in, I'm asking for some money to go make some more money. And what she knows is when I make that more money, the interest is already built in. So not only is she going to get the principal amount back, but pretty much guaranteed the interest on the loan. She doesn't care what I do with the profit. It's just about selling me a loan that they know they're going to make money on. They want to give me money that they know they're going to make money on. So there are people out here all the time. How do you think skyscrapers get built? How do you think houses get built? How do you think a lot of these businesses are run? It's not because I use my regular cash. It's not because I used my money after I finished doing my expenses and I have my leftover savings. These businesses, these properties, these companies are being created by borrowing money. Do you know that America as a whole has so much debt? That's what they talk about when they talk about the national debt, right? It's in debt itself because it borrows to be able to accomplish the things that it does. So there's no shame in borrowing. It's all about doing it deliberately. And that's where the rubber meets the road in this formula. You want to be able to be the kind of person that can say, well, I don't have to pay a lot of stuff back because I lowered my debt. I have good credit, so I have these things available for me. And I have some savings right here, so I'm comfortable. Now, what else can I do? As opposed to, I have my job, I'm struggling, man, I think I got to get another job and I got to pay these bills back. And then it's ever increasing because all these things have interest on them. That's the core principle of being able, and what Read Me or Stay Broke is about. It's about understanding that there is a formula to being able to qualify to be able to do the things that other people are doing. Because as you read these books, as you start to be more aware of business, stocks, real estate, you start to see, man, like, how are these people doing it? And it's invisible, right? Because of the way our society is set up, the way that I explain this in Read Me or Stay Broke, most people are not going to explain this to you, even if they understood it, but most people don't understand it because we're set up deliberately to be financially competitive. So because I don't want you to get ahead of me, why would I explain to you how I'm doing what I'm doing? That's where we have, our biggest disconnect, because when people have this information right here, you can't stop me. So what prevents me from being able to share the information with you? We're no longer in competition. And that's where I want a lot of us to be able to get to, is a place where we can be interdependent, where we can work together, where we can partner, because that's what other people do. They not only use their credit as a superpower, they combine forces and use our collective credit as a superpower to be able to start this company, to be able to start this hedge fund, to be able to start this property business and own apartment complexes together, own real estate properties together. Go ahead, what are you about to say? Or were you about to say something?
I was just listening to what you were saying. But again, they collaborate on those projects. They don't, like you said, they don't use their own money. They all pool that money together. And even if it's not their money, they still borrow money, but they use each other's credit to put that money together for those deals. It's not just one person. You never hear one person putting those deals together.
Right. And here's the beautiful thing. When we all know the formula, we don't have to worry if one of us gonna be shady. Right? Because I know what you know. But when we're just like kind of maybe like if you look back in the day at some of the people in the music business, right? They see the opportunity of singing, being on stage, having records, being famous. But what did they not see? They didn't see the business aspect.
Oh, the contracts.
Right? They didn't know the contract. They didn't know the distribution. They didn't know the masters, right? All they saw was the fame. And so in the long run, they were like, well, where's my money? But that person was playing off their ignorance. With this kind of information, we can all go into a collective relaxed and at ease and just eyes on the opportunity, because I can see what you're doing. I know how to read those documents. I know how to see the financial statements. I can understand the credit. I see what we're trying to do because I read Read Me or Stay Broke, so I'm aware. And it makes it easier collaborative because we all work into a common goal, and the other person knows they can't pull nothing over on me, right? One of my favorite things to do when I started learning about real estate was to talk to other people about real estate and hear what they were not telling me that I had read. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was a rookie in the game. I would go home because what I discovered was I would go to the seminars, I would go to the little meeting, and people were kind of cliquish, the people who knew stuff, or the people who's already, and I would go over there and I'd ask a question. But because they sold the information, or because they had students that would pay them for the information, they would be, little drop here, a little sprinkle to me. I couldn't afford at the time to buy their program or to be their student or something, but I could afford books. I could afford Audible. I could go read, right? So I would go to Audible, dive in my book, buy a new book each month and learn and learn and learn. And I would go back and I have a conversation with them, and I would ask them a question that I knew the answer to and wait to see the kind of answer that they would give me. And it helped me determine the kind of person that they were and if I want to work with them in the future. right? That's the beauty of Read Me and Stay Broke, or just financial intelligence in general, is it gives you an ability to kind of hear not what a person's telling you, but what they're deliberately not telling you, right? So when you get to the qualification phase, you're able to now access property, stocks, and owning a business. And these are from the government, tax advantaged. So if you have an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, a business, and the crazy thing is, these things are not unaccessible. Anybody could do them. The only barrier that exists is financial discrimination. You can't start a business if you don't have the ability to know, what a LLC is, what an S Corp is, where a C Corp is, what a partnership is. I don't know. So if I don't know, how can I do? You don't know what you don't know. Stocks, a lot of people don't know how to open an account, how much it takes to start an account, what the stock actually is, what are they derived from, where do they come from, what makes them go up and down, right? They don't know about futures, they don't know about bonds, they don't know about options, right? It all seems so very confusing because you don't have a center point to understand what you're trying to accomplish. It's just way up there, and somebody's going to explain it to you. You're going to have to trust them and see what they do. No, why not know, understand, seek to find, right? But the problem is, because you don't know where to look, how can you look, right? So much information out there. And that's why I wanted to write Read Me and Stay Broke. It breaks it down in a simple way of what each thing is, so that now you have an understanding. And like you said before, a place to start, right? That is what I really want people to be able to have, especially when it comes to real estate too, is I remember growing up, and this might sound funny to some people, but I thought everybody owned a house. Seriously, we lived in an apartment. And so when I would go to my friends' houses, like I promise you, and it sounds so weird, but it is the God's honest truth. It was not until I was an adult that I realized that people rent houses. I thought you only rent apartments and own houses, because for most of us in the community, home ownership is the highest level, right? Like, I hope one day I can be a home owner. And with that being the top, how could I possibly imagine having 2 or 3 or 4 when I'm trying to figure out how to afford 1, right? And so because that barrier was there mentally, I didn't know what I didn't know. That was something I couldn't even conceive of. There are some people that still think like that. Like, there are people who own more than one property, but how can I even open my mind up to think I can own a property when I have an apartment, a car, a note, my paycheck to paycheck, right? So discovering that people owned other property, I was like, well, how are they doing that? How can they afford that? They wasn't using their own money. They qualified. So they would buy a piece of property using them. And this may sound so simple to some other people. And if you already know, or if you already understand, like, bless you, because I was not given that information at an early age. But for the people that don't understand what I'm saying, having savings allows you to have a down payment. Having low debt and high credit allow you to take on more debt, and also to have good enough credit to qualify to then get a mortgage. And some people just use that qualification just for themselves. But there are people that still maintain these after having their first property. And so they use this same borrowing power, this superpower, to then get another mortgage, buy this piece of property, and then have to pay back the loan. But then they allow a person to live in that property, because they don't live in that property, they live in this property. And the person who lives in that property pays them a larger amount of money than the mortgage payment they have to pay back to the bank. So they buy that house for $100,000. The mortgage payment each month is $1,000. They rent the house out for $1,500. They make $500 a month. They pay $1,000 on their loan. And then they use that money to then own the house. It's in their name, but they never had to pay for it, because the money to buy it initially came from the bank, and the money to pay back the bank came from the renter. And then once the renter has paid back the bank for you, you own the property. It's yours. And you have the $100,000 space now that that house is worth as part of your wealth. And guess what you can do? You can still keep renting it. So now instead of the $500 coming in a month, you have $1,500 coming in a month on a property that you already own. Pay a little bit of taxes, do a little repair here and there, but you're still making $1,100 to $1,000 a month. I had no idea that that was going on. And here's the craziest thing. All I described was one house. That's just one property. What if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses, $7,000 a month coming in as tax advantaged passive income? You don't have to do anything. You qualified. This is how wealth is built. You qualified to be able to use your credit as a superpower, to be able to buy something that you couldn't afford, that was income producing, pay the loan back that you borrowed, keep the asset that you paid for with that money, and now it continues to make you money after the fact. When I discovered that, it blew my mind. I don't know how other people take it, or when they come to that epiphany, or when they discover that, it might seem super simple. But for me, it was like, I can't believe this. Wow. Conversely, you do the same thing with a business. I take out the business loan. I didn't have to come up with my own money. I took out the business loan. I got these employees. I produced this product. I bought this building. I did this advertising. I did this marketing, and it's over here on the bank's money. Now the income that's coming in from the company, I pay back my business loan. I pay my employees. I buy and re-up on product, but there's a profit margin right here. And it's not coming from me. They're building the profit margin and they're doing the work. The money is coming into me from the profit margin after I pay all of them and I pay back my loan. It's the superpower that's creating this. Same thing with stocks. I'm taking the profit from the business. I'm taking the profit from the real estate. This is the money that I made using the other people's money. I'm investing it in the market deliberately. It's producing income on its own. Facebook, Instagram, Tesla, Walmart, they're all doing their business over there. My stock's value is tied to how good they're doing their business, and they're doing it. And the money that's being produced off of that, I'm not doing any labor for. And all this money is tax advantage. Real estate has all kinds of tax advantages because the government doesn't just go around improving houses. That's why you can see so many rundown neighborhoods. That's why you can see so many abandoned properties. Why? The government's not just like, man, let me go improve that neighborhood just for those people because. No, individual investors do that. You know, with businesses, you can get a government business loan, but you can SBA loan. You can also get one from the bank, but they want you creating money. They want creating jobs, more taxpayers, right? They want you creating these things. Like think about how many things are tied to property tax, business tax, but they're advantaged because they want to incentivize people to take these entrepreneurial efforts. So for you, you can have real estate and stocks and a business inside of a LLC or own a business, and you can take expenses and then only pay taxes on the expenses. So if you have a business, this is why I say tax advantage passive income. Like I have an LLC, I have a business. So whenever I do anything inside of my business from my profits, I pay less taxes, but I got to get my money first. When you're in your job, you get your money last, right? You get your paycheck, and when you get your paycheck, this gone, that gone, this gone, this gone, this gone, and here you can have what's left. I give the government what's left. When I do stuff in my business, say I make 100 grand. If I spend $75,000 in building up my business, I got to use that money before I paid any taxes on it. And then my $25,000 that's left, that's what they tax me for because that was my actual profit. Everything else went to reinvesting in the business. But what does the reinvestment in the business do? It turns that 100,000 into 200,000 next year, 300,000. As long as I keep investing in my business, but what can I do? I can have a business card. I can eat meals. I can travel. I can do all these things in the business, right? But they are taxable expenses. So I get to pay for them before I have to pay taxes. I get to pay for them early, but I'm still enjoying the benefits of them, but they're inside my business. This is the way that we can actually build long-term wealth and enjoy what we see other people doing. But all of this that I just explained to you is kind of invisible. You see the pieces of it, but you don't see this formula put together this way, and you don't see it able to implement it in your own life.
You know what just made me think about?
Yes, sir.
You were talking about houses though, but I just thought about something. I used to work at a hotel, and I didn't realize at the time. I think we found out later on. The hotel was a Marriott, but Marriott didn't own the hotel. Marriott is actually, in a lot of cases, a property management company. So they're managing these hotels, but you got other people who own the hotel. They have, and Marriott has to pay them to use that, if I'm not mistaken. Because because you still own the property as real estate. As you said, real estate, you own the property. Like even an apartment complex. I remember a complex I lived in years ago, and I found out the company that managed, I think they had different management companies come through there, but somebody else owned the actual apartments. They just managed the apartments. Cortland was the last. There was somebody before that time, but I always thought that the companies that were managed, I thought they owned it, but they don't. So a lot of these times, people actually own these things. Regular people own these, like groups own the properties, but you see a big name on it, so you think the big name owns it.
Yeah, I'll give you I'll piggyback off what you're saying too. A lot of restaurants don't own the building that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You look at your Red Lobster, look at your Chili's and stuff like that. That building is usually owned by somebody else. And then have you ever seen a restaurant in your area change from being one type to being another type, but the building looked the same?
Well, you think about it, you say with McDonald's franchisees, sometimes you see McDonald's open for years and years and years. You think it's the same owner, but they just went from franchisee to franchisee.
Do you know that McDonald's is the largest real estate owner in the world?
I've heard that. That's where the money comes from. They own the real estate.
They own the land. They own the land underneath the restaurant, right? But to your point about being able to have different types of real estate, right? So we're discussing the same concept of borrowing money, owning a piece of property, and having somebody pay you for it. We're just talking about the difference in tenants and difference in type. So you can have residential real estate and you can have commercial real estate. I remember being young. Again, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I remember being younger and wanting to have a business. So have you ever seen a building where you're driving by and in that building is a hair salon, a Subway, a cell phone place, a gym, right? But they're all one section of that building. I remember thinking, man, one day I hope I have a barbershop, a business like that. I didn't realize the building was a business. Right? The building is the business. It has 5 open slots for 5 different types of businesses. All 5 of those types of businesses are the tenants. You know what I'm saying? That company is paying for that ability to be able to have that tenant in there. And the tenant is paying them to be able to give them rent for being in that business, That's another way that you can create tax advantage passive income, right? All these things become available to us once we're able to understand that this is the way to get there. Savings, debt, credit, overcoming financial discrimination, having qualification, and then deciding what we want to do once we're in that good position,
Well, so that's why Sears wanted Kmart in the first place, because Kmart was that's where Kmart really money came from realty. They had a huge real estate portfolio. They owned the buildings. When Sears acquired Kmart, they acquired that real estate portfolio.
Man, it's all there, man. It's just invisible to us, Like that's what prompted me to write my book. That's what prompted me to write my book. So that's the formula. Again, you can go down the checklist to be able to create the formula for yourself. These are all the components: saving, debt, credit, taxes, business, securities, real estate. This is how it works all together. You can email me at msjbiz@gmail. You can buy a copy of Read Me Stay Broke at readmestayBroke.com, and we can connect on social media. If anybody wants to kind of, go back and forth or talk or whatever like that, that'd be awesome. I want to be able to, if there's anything that you want to know a little bit deeper about, I try not to take too deep of a dive into real estate, stocks, and business. I don't want to confuse anybody, getting too technical, but if there's something more you want to know, I definitely would love to help.
Wholesaling. I had never heard that before. That now I heard of flipping out because everybody and their mama want to flip houses. You know, they see on the shows, look so cool. Everybody wants to do that. But then you mentioned wholesale. I had never heard of that.
Right. Yeah, wholesaling is being able to take a property and sell it to somebody before you have to do the repairs. So there are several levels to real estate investing. The basic level is, like I explained a minute ago, buying a property that's already in good repair with a mortgage and a loan, putting a tenant in there, letting them pay the mortgage down for you. That's a strategy called buy and hold. So you buy the property, you hold it, you rent it out, and that's how you acquire the property over time. You do that more and more. You have several people paying you at the same time. Underneath that is what's called rehabbing. So rehabbing is I get a piece of property, it's a little messed up. I use some of that loan money to fix it up, like how you see on Flip This House or the Flip House and shows. That's rehabbing. So you get the house, you fix it up, and then you sell it to somebody for a profit margin. So your profit margin comes, I talk in Read My Stay Broke about chunks and streams as a way of your income flowing, like an income flow. So if you do a rehab, you acquire the house with the loan, you use some of the loan money to fix the house up. With the money that you use to fix the house up, you then put it on the market and a family comes, they buy it, and you get that big chunk of money over the sales price. Say you bought it for 80,000, you use 20,000 to fix it up, but then you sell it for 130. You keep the profit margin over what it was that you had to spend to fix it. You spend 100,000 fixing it, you keep the 30,000. On the renting side, you have streams. So I buy the house, I keep the house, I put a person in there, and now they pay me a little bit each month, that cash flow I was talking about for the rent. But if you get 4, 5, 6 of them, you have streams coming at the same time that all come together each month. Now, some people can't afford to qualify to buy that house and then rent it, or buy that house and fix it. But what they can do is they can partner with somebody. So if you wanted to wholesale a house, but me and you had a personal relationship and I'm a qualifying person, I can speak on your behalf and say that we're partners, right? And I can allow you to use my financial standing to put a property in your name or in your business's name so that you're able to say, I'm going to buy this house. Now with real estate, it takes about 30 days to close a property. So because it takes about 30 days to close a property, you don't have to be in a rush. So what we do is I work with you, we identify properties, we analyze properties, we go through the process of seeing which one can be a moneymaker based on what its value will be and based off how many repairs it needs. And we purchase that property. But what we do is we sign the contract to purchase and we give what's called the earnest money. A lot of times people think if you sign the contract to buy the house, that you absolutely have to buy the house. That's not true. What happens is if you get the house under contract, so say we go talk to a real estate agent, me and you, we find the property that we want to have. We say we're willing to pay this amount of money for it. They accept our price. They're going to say, we need your earnest money. Earnest money is $500 to $1,000 to maybe $2,000 that we give the real estate agent for keeping the house for us while we try to close it in 30 days, which means we try to find a buyer for it in 30 days. If we do not get a buyer, we can back out the contract, but it's only going to cost us the $500 to $1,000 to $2,000. I call it the price of opportunity, right? It's a calculated risk. If you do sell the house, then you get, the money goes into everything else, you keep it. So wholesaling is me and you get together, we put the house under contract, we give the real estate agent the earnest money. Now we go talk to people who are the people who rehab the houses, the people who do rent the houses. And we say to them, hey man, look, we have this house that we got for, well, we're not going to tell them what we got it for, but say we have a house right here for $85,000. You could buy it from us. Me and you know that we got the house for $75,000, but we're going to sell it for $85,000. But the reason why we're going to sell it for 85 is because it only needs $10,000 in repairs to make it worth 115, right? So we got it for 75. We're going to sell it for 85 because we're trying to make just the 10 that we don't want to fix it. We don't want to rent it. We can't afford to rent it or fix it, right? We can't even afford to buy it. But what we can afford is $500 to try and sell it to somebody who can afford to fix it and who can afford to buy it. See what I'm saying? That's how wholesaling works. I'm going to get this house under contract. I have it under contract for 30 days. I've been talking to people who fix houses. I've been talking to people who rent houses. And I've been looking at the kind of houses that they rent, looking at the kind of houses that they fix up. I found one like that. So hopefully, if I show them that if they get it from me for 85, they fix it for 10 more, which means they'll be all in for 95, that they could sell it for 115. That's what wholesaling is. Because once they buy it from us for 85, we're out the deal. We made our 10 and we're moving on. And that's how I got started in real estate. I got started wholesaling. But people don't know that you can do that because they see, like, you don't know what you don't know. So you see that property, you see the whole system as traditional, right? And a lot of times, also, a lot of people get burnt out when it comes to, wholesale flipping because it's not explained the way I just explained it to you. It's explained, stick a sign outside on the curb for someone who's struggling on their mortgage, and that person is going to look at your sign that's written in Sharpie and be like, that's the person that's going to save me. That's how they get you to spin your wheels, man. Like, people who sell like those seminars and stuff, the two areas that they leave out is, one, there's nobody on this planet that's calling that Sharpie sign to try and get somebody who can't even afford a real printed sign to buy it.
Legit.
Come on, man. If you writing your sign in Sharpie and sticking it on the side of the road, why in the world do I feel like you have enough money to buy my house for me? That's not going to trigger nothing in my mind. Second of all, the other part they don't tell you is how hard it is to analyze property. That's not an easy thing to do. To explain it to you the way I just explained it to you, to be able to look at what a person is buying and what a person is already getting, and to meet those people and know those people. That's one step. It's called getting your buyers. You have to get a buyer's list. You start to meet those people before you even have a property. So that you have somebody that once you have the house, you can call, you can email. You get your buyer's list first if you want to be a wholesaler. Go to real estate meetings, go to real estate agents, like ask people, talk to people. And actually, you can actually go on the Secretary of State website, and you can use, not Secretary of State, you can go on the tax assessor website, and pretty much all the houses in your area are going to be shown by owner. So if you go on there, you can see LLCs that own houses. You can then Google those LLCs, then you can call those LLCs, and you can try and talk to the investor and ask them, what is your criteria? What kind of houses are you looking for? What neighborhoods are you looking for? Okay, cool. Now I know to go look for houses in that area. So now I go look for houses in that area. But what do I need to know to look at houses in that area? I need to know repair costs. I need to know how much that house is going to be able to be worth after I repair it. The way I do that is I look at the other houses that just sold in the neighborhood. The houses that have sold in the neighborhood recently are showing me the prices of houses in this area right now that are like my house. So I can't just go and pick a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house, 3 stories, and then come over here and look at my 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath and be like, I could sell my house for $500,000 because this house just sold for $500,000. That's not how it works. What I can do though is I can find another 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-story and see how much a brand new one of those sold for, about 3, 4, or 5 of them. When I look at all those and I look at mine, I say, okay, well, mine has got bad roof, bad plumbing, and needs to be painted. And in this area, houses are selling for $150,000, brand new and fresh. I'm coming over and looking at mine. The bank or whoever the owner is saying, I'll sell this house for 70 grand, right? I'm like, okay, what's wrong with it? So I see all the things that's wrong with it. I sit and I calculate, or I talk to a contractor, I ask them for prices. How much is it going to cost to fix this house up? Oh, it'll cost about 20,000. Okay, so it costs 20 to fix this. They want 70. That still leaves, if it's fixed up, that's going to be worth 150. That's a nice profit spread. So now, because I know those numbers, now I know how to present the offer to the person who rehabs the house and people that rents the houses. That's the part that they don't tell you in the seminar, right? They just tell you, they just skip straight to rehabbing. They say, we found this house for $100,000. How did you find it? How did you find it? It just starts right at the house. And all those numbers make sense. We got a house. We fixed it for this much. We sold it for that much. We got another house. We sold it for this much. We fixed it for that much. That's cool. How did you find it? How did you get it? What did you use to analyze it? And that's the part that they sell. They sell the analysis, right? They sell in the courses and stuff, how to look at houses, how to market to people. But if you don't understand a better way, you have to go with what they're giving you. And so I hope that explained a better way to understand how to wholesale.
Would you suggest connecting with a home inspector to do that?
You can do that as well. You can do that as well. Like,
Because they'll be able to give you a better estimate of how much it's really going to cost and how much house damage really has. Sometimes to the naked, I know I won't be able to look at the house and figure out what's wrong with it, but they usually walk in there and it's like, oh yeah, this house, plumbing, electrical work, everything.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. It's all part of the process of trying to build wealth. So yeah, you might not know now, but that's what understanding this formula can motivate you to do. I know what I'm trying to accomplish now. Like there may have never, like when I told you, I used to work with my dad, he was an appraiser. When I was 15 years old, I would go with him to appraise houses. It didn't interest me because I wasn't trying to buy a house. I didn't understand what we were trying to accomplish. Little did I know he was becoming one of the best property appraisers, not only for others, but sharpening his own skill set for properties that he wanted to acquire for himself in the future. That's why he has a business now called Investor Comps that does comparables or be able to compare houses for investors. Investors buy into his service to be able to look at houses and compare them to be able to know the value that their house is going to be. But he was doing that in the baby steps back when he was being an appraiser. That's why I tell you I have over 300 books in my Audible. Once you understand this Real Estate Broke formula, it gives you the motivation to go learn about the other things, to learn about stocks, to learn about real estate, to learn about business, because I'm going to be doing that in a little while I'm over here lowering my debt, while I'm over here fixing my credit, while I'm over here building up my savings, getting my qualifications ready to overcome financial discrimination. What am I doing? I'm preparing myself to be able to go buy this house. And you can watch real estate. You can watch YouTube videos. There are inspectors on there trying to be guru inspectors and teach other inspectors. So you can sit and you can listen to a guy go through a whole property, find all the things that's wrong with it. You can YouTube contractors. There's contractors trying to be the guru of contractors, telling other contractors how to look at this. This is how much this is going to cost. This is how you calculate your numbers to be able to talk to an investor to tell them how much you're going to charge them. This is how you fix like you don't have to know how to fix them, but you're seeing how they fix them. You're seeing what they charge to fix them. You're seeing how much materials cost for them to fix them. And so you're able to understand now, okay. So now when you're looking at stuff, it's a fun journey, man. It's a fun journey to acquire the skills together. One thing I can say about Rich Dad Poor Dad is he had a great phrase in that book that I took with me and I kept with me throughout my life. He says, you want to know a little about a lot. A lot of people, when they become a profession, they know a lot about a little, right? I used to go to real estate seminars that had dentists there, and the dentists were actually at the real estate seminar trying to figure out how to buy property. They were expert dentists, $1 million earners, but they were in student loan debt, they were in business loan debt, and they were always having to go in and fix some teeth to be able to bring in some more money. So they were like, how can I find a way to make more money? So they were coming to learn how to take some of their money and do property and learn real estate, because even though they knew a lot about dentistry, they knew very little about outside of that world, right? So what I'm saying is when it comes to learning how to build wealth, you want to know a lot about a lot, right? You want to learn, right? And think about it. You have nothing but time. That was the thing for me. Was like, if I'm trying to build wealth for myself or my children or my family, this is so much better than binging some Netflix. This is so much better than, playing video games. This is so much better than just watching a movie, being able to be like, man, I'm deliberately self-improving. I'm building the kind of person that these other people are that keep it a secret. And now I'm the person in my family that can write a book. I'm the person in my family that can give a speech about financial education. Before, I was just an aircraft mechanic, man. Right? I just was fixing airplanes in the Air Force. But through deliberate self-improvement, through deliberate learning, not only was I able to empower myself, but you guys, people around me, people I bump into, anyone who reads my book, like that's who you become when you take the steps to learn more and more about more and more. You know what I mean? So anybody else want to ask a question? I know I answered that question about wholesaling. Calvin, do you have a question or anything? Everything was good. Eskridge, was everything good for you? I think Ado joined us, or Ado. I apologize if I said it wrong. Yes, Eskridge.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I've been listening to your information off and on.
Okay.
I had a mad morning, but very informative seminar. I did want to talk to you about the tax implications on that wholesaling.
Yes.
But I'm driving around 285 and it's looking a little interesting right now. So.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yes, this is Ado. You did pronounce it correct at this time. So it is Ado. And yeah, I'm a former real estate agent and invest in property and stuff like that. So I understand exactly what you're saying. It's all about having that good credit score.
Definitely, huh?
And having some money in the bank to help you along the way for the first 3 months or so until you can get on your feet with your business. So all of that is great stuff.
Thank you. Did you realize when you started becoming a real estate agent and stuff like that, that you had access to more information than normal people?
Yes, I did. I did. It, of course, a lot of things became a lot clearer because I was a realtor and I understood exactly what the earnest money was all about and stipulations and getting an actual appraisal up front on the property so you can at least know how to go in and make your bid if you want to purchase that particular property, especially if it was not a new property. If it's an old property that you are buying to rehab, there are advantages of getting that appraisal done. And a lot of people don't necessarily want to do that because it's another $400 or $500 out of your pocket. Yeah, but sure. You might be trying to buy a property that has bad plumbing, has the old lead pipes in it. And that's gonna have to be updated. So, do you want to take on that responsibility? Or do you want to go to another property where you don't have to invest in a property that's gonna need some new plumbing that's gonna bring it up to speed?
Definitely, that appraisal is crucial, and that's how you calculate your numbers. And that's what I was saying, that most people, when they first get into business, like you just said about getting your appraisal or being able to know the numbers, they don't have that part explained to them. They don't have the analyzing property part broken down to them. So then when they really want to dive into trying to do some wholesaling or something, they get discouraged because, oh man, this is way more than I thought it was going to be. At the seminar, it was so easy and simple.
Yeah. You have to spend money to make money, but then good money.
Definitely.
Spend good money.
And another thing is you have to be able to invest in yourself. Like, I'm sure when you went to go do your real estate license, you had to take your test, you had to study, you had to, right? Like, that's what we have to be comfortable with. Like, we have to be comfortable. I ask people this all the time in my speeches is I say, what's the difference between the rich and the poor? And they say money. I'm like, no, it's what they buy.
Yeah.
Right? They buy different, they buy education, they buy more self-improvement, they buy, these enhancers that, while we're buying the things to make it look like we're rich, they're actually buying the information to, be able to get and continue to have riches.
Yeah.
Like you said, you gotta spend money to make money. You gotta spend money to make money. So right quick on escrows, the tax implications, it just depends. So if you have when you make the money, it just gets taxed as normal income. So you just file the income on your taxes. And if you have an LLC, it'll be different. If you have an LLC, well, it's still a pass-through entity. But if you have an LLC, you can use some of the money to do other things. Then when you file your taxes, you'll have a lower tax liability based on the income that you made. But if you just do a wholesale house as a person, when you sell it, you'll just pay, capital gains, or depending on the amount of money that you make, you'll just pay a tax on the amount that you made. But, taxes, man, like, I don't know if you ever heard, there's a guy named Jim Rohn. He's a motivational speaker. He calls taxes pay to play, right? So we live in a free society. We have free roads. We have police officers. We have firefighters and stuff like that. And yeah, taxes suck for all of us. It's like an unknown debt that always comes every time we do something. Shop taxes, income taxes, property taxes, like they're all there, they're all around. And what you have to realize is there's people who create the legislation behind taxes, and then those people know the rules. So we have to either sit, like for like maybe $50, you can sit down with a CPA. Like, you see CPAs all the time, and you can just ask them questions. They'll tell you. That's what I did when I was doing my research and understanding stuff. I went to a CPA office. I didn't have a business. I didn't have a property. I was just a regular worker. But I was like, can I just have some of your time and ask you some questions? And I had wrote down some questions out of one of my books. And he just explained it to me as an accountant. He was like, well, if you do this, you do that. If you do this, you do that. I'm like, oh, wow. He was like, if you get a trust, you can do this. If you have a LLC, you can do that. So it's all a research process, but you get so informed that you're able to really move differently now. But just as far as wholesaling goes, you're either going to just pay the capital gains tax by having the chunk of money come in, reported on your taxes as income that you made. It is almost no different than how you do your wages. Or if you have an LLC, you can kind of mitigate it a little bit because you can buy more things to keep doing your business before you pay the taxes. But an LLC is still a pass-through entity, which means it still comes straight to the owner with almost like a regular tax rate. The only benefit is you get to have the taxes before expenses component added in there. I hope that answered your question. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, sir, you're good.
All right, wonderful. Anybody else got anything?
That's something else interesting I saw in your book, what you were saying about the CPA, because normally people do think about a CPA for a business only, but you were saying how just regular people, just W-2 person needs to get a CPA. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
because it makes sense.
Because right now you do what? You go to H, because this is the biggest thing that people don't even listen to the name of what a tax refund is. It is a tax refund.
You pay too much.
Right. And yeah, they have incentives in there where, you have a kid, so you get an extra free $1,200 or this, that, and the third. But like, wouldn't you rather be able to use more of your money up front on your own and then pay them a little bit less? But it's the only reprieve that you have. It's like a mini lottery every year for people who go paycheck to paycheck. So I understand it, but you're really on the wrong side of how the tax system works. It's like, we're going to give you something back for, overtaxing you and just, you still being an employee. We're on the opposite side. You can have, your property, you can have your business, you have your low credit, you have your good, you have your high credit, your low debt, you have some savings. And then as you take an action, you understand the taxes that come with it, and again, these things, that's why I call it tax advantaged passive income. This passive income, most passive income models come with a tax benefit because the government wants to incentivize the expansion of the economy. Think about it. Property, when you think about this is why the government, think about how many things are impacted by just doing one property rehab. The contractor, Lowe's, Home Depot, there's about to be fresh property taxes. This person's about to be able to live in that house. The bank, the real estate agent. You see that one transaction, the mortgage company, like that one transaction, like ripples through so many pieces of the economy. Think about a business. You get a business, you got suppliers, you got your location, you have the taxes, you have employees bringing in more people that's going to have income tax. So the business is like, the government is like, please go start that. And if you need some incentive to keep doing that, we'll lower your tax burden a little bit so that you can keep doing that, because it generates so many other things. So you have tax advantages built, like, for instance, I'm actually, I know, Ada, you probably know, but does anybody else know what a 1031 exchange is?
I saw that in the book. I can't remember what it is right now, but I did see that in the book.
Okay.
Because I never heard of it before.
A 1031 exchange is a real estate tax break that allows you, go ahead, Ada.
It has to do with property and getting a tax break on when to buy and those kind of things. 100. I never did one before, but I know what they are.
Excellent. A 1031 exchange allows you to sell a piece of property, make the gain, make the profit, and then as long as you do it in a certain amount of days, take that money and put it in another property, you pay no taxes. So how does that work? I have $10,000 in savings. I want to buy a piece of property. This is starting from the beginning. I have good savings. I have low debt. I have high credit. I qualify for a loan to get a mortgage on a house. I take 10,000 of my savings. I put it down on the loan. They give me the other 90. I buy a house for $100,000. I put a tenant in there. The person keeps renting and renting and renting. After they finish renting for so many years, different tenants, I own this house, $100,000, free and clear, is mine. I could keep renting it, or what I could do, I could sell it. So I sell this house. I sell it and I make $100,000 because, or really more than that, because my house is gaining in value over time. But just for simplicity, let's say I make the $100,000. Now I have $100,000 that's about to get taxed at a capital gains tax. But what can I do? I can take that $100,000. I can make that the down payment on an apartment complex. This apartment complex is $700,000, 80 unit apartment complex. I have the 100,000. I could put it all straight in there, no tax, and acquire this apartment complex now. And now I have 70 tenants paying me at the same time. But the way I got the money for that was using my 1031 exchange tax break to be able to buy that apartment complex. Yes, that exists. That's what I look at your face. That's what I'm saying, man. That's the tax advantage passive. This is the kind of stuff we do not know, what we do not know, man.
Yeah.
And nobody's telling you.
No, why would they tell you? They want to do it. Like, I don't mind telling you, because somebody else knowing can't prevent me from doing it. Once you know, you that's why they say knowledge is power. The only thing
you gotta want to know. You gotta want to know. Some people came today, right?
Well, I think that you have, like, I get into this argument at the barbershop all the time, because some people be like, people are lazy. They don't want to know. There are some of the most hardest working people you will see in your life. They just don't have a different thing to put their effort on.
The motivation.
Right? Awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness can motivate, when you don't know that you could do something, you don't do it. But when you do know, now it just depends on whether you think you can or you can't, or if you're getting the right information. Right. But I never fault anybody for being unaware of something that they don't know they could be doing that they're not doing. And that's why I always feel like the up by the bootstraps and all that stuff, it gets on my nerves, because these people bootstraps is fraying from how hard they pulling on their bootstraps, but they only know one way to pull them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's what really motivated me to write the book. I wanted it to be like, how can we take our effort that we have, like, as a collective, how can we apply it to what we know more of how to do? And that's what I wanted. I wanted little children coming out of high school to be able to understand this, because this is the formula for becoming a financially successful adult. So you go to school, you learn about science, biology, algebra, all these things like that, in hopes that one day you might be interested in one of those as your career path. We're going to spark your knowledge. So we teach you all these things, but you never teach me the thing that I'm going to have to be, which is a financially successful, self-supporting adult. And that's what this formula and this book does. It gives you the blueprint to understand from the beginning what the goal is, what the components are, and how they interconnect to be able to create wealth. It's not just I get a bunch of money from being an entertainer or being a rapper or being an athlete. This is the everyman formula to wealth. All you need to start with is some income. Once you get some income, now you can decide not to go in debt. You can decide not to overuse credit. You can decide to save some, and you can deliberately build a credit profile, a debt to credit ratio, and a savings account that allow you to borrow money using your credit as a superpower to then be able to generate income bringing in streams of business, stocks, or real estate. And then those bring in money, not just only your labor, and you can still have a job if you want to. You got your income, and then, but you can also get a job inside one of these things. You can become a real estate agent, like Ada said. You know, you can learn more, but the formula itself is consistent. This will not change. It don't matter if they got NFTs. It don't matter if they have self-driving car. No matter how much the technology changes, it doesn't matter if we move to crypto or whatever. That none of that matters. The thing that matters the most is human beings are always going to have money coming in, some kind of income. We're always going to have some type of debt or a way to borrow more money because the system is set up for things to be more expensive than you have. You can look at inflation right now, how it is. You're always going to also have credit because it's given to you without your permission. Understand that. None of us asked for a credit score. They did not ask us if we wanted one. They did not need our permission to give us a credit score, a credit report, and to track us. It happened regardless. And they didn't ask us if we wanted to participate in the system of qualification, borrowing real estate stocks, having a job, and being able to pay taxes. None of that was asked for us. So we have to participate in a system that's not explained to us. And then we have to be told, well, why aren't you doing well in that system? That's what I want Read Me or Stay Broke to do. That's why it says in the book so many times, this is not your fault. It's not. It is not your fault that the way that your financials are set up right now are not to your liking because somebody sent you out on a football field with the ball, no pads, no teammate, didn't explain the rules to you, and not saying to you why you're getting tackled. You see what I'm saying? That's how the financial system is. Here's a few things, but I'm not going to explain any of the rules to you. And I'm going to penalize you for not knowing the rules I didn't explain to you. That's not fair. But no one's going to save us because we all suffering from the same problem. So this book deliberately gives you in a story that you can enjoy the way to see the system. And I just hope that it collectively helps more and more and more of us be able to have informative conversations about how to help each other without feeling like we need to hoard information.
Very true.
Well, that's all I got, man. Unless we have any more questions.
Ado?
Well, Calvin, the only thing that I would like to add to the conversation is, and just give me 30 seconds or 60 seconds of advice or adding some color to it, is it just seems that everybody else is able to work together within their own community, except for when it comes to brown and Black people. We can't seem to get to the point where we can pool our monies together, go after a common goal to make some more money, do the right thing by how we treat our customers, give them a quality product, give them some good customer service. How are we getting around to eliminating some of those barriers that come along with that?
Oh, is that a question, or are you adding that? I'm sorry.
That's a question. How do we get to a point where we can work together like other communities work together? You know, you go to a Chinese restaurant, they got 4 or 5 generations in there working in that restaurant. That's because nobody has came to the restaurant and walked away with the money, stole money out the cash register, hiding funds from other partners that's purchased the restaurant. And that seems to be what keeps us from working together, because there's always somebody that has a side eye of how to do business, and it's not the right way.
So to answer your question, in my opinion, I think this formula is how that happens. And I mean that sincerely. I mean that by being able to know how to do stuff already, you can qualify another person to see if they're able to work with you honestly, as well as not having to fear them pulling one over on you because you both are financially educated. And I've tried to do that with our youth. I've tried to not only work with adults to help them get out of their situations, but I've tried to bring this education to high schools and to high school students so that they enter the world non-competitively because they are being financially educated as a unit. And so their ability to partner is more fluid because they want to work together to do stuff, because they don't feel a fear that we felt between each other based on knowledge gaps. A lot of times people prey upon other people's ignorance, like I was describing earlier when I used the example of the music business.
Right.
When some certain people would get ahead or know something more than the other person, they would use it to their advantage over the other person. I think by having a consistent knowledge base collectively, it then now allows us to do what those other communities do, because that's kind of how they are. Their knowledge base is kind of consistent, and their ability to share it with each other is a little more non-competitive. And so when they do work together, whether it's family first or friends or even just straight business, their collective understanding of what they're doing doesn't put any particular person in a disadvantage or other person at an advantage. We're able to approach the situation as equals for an equal goal, which allows for a better cooperation. I think when you have a power dynamic, not just based on money, but based on knowledge, a lot of times people think that the inability to work together means that person has more money, so I'm at a disadvantage, he's at an advantage. That's not really where the advantage comes from. The advantage comes from the money knowledge, or the knowledge of what we're about to try to do, like people trying to teach other people how to do real estate. You might come into the real estate business with like a dentist, like I was telling you about dentists or doctors. You might have $2-3 million. I might only have $400,000-$500,000, but I got all the knowledge. So I could pull one over on you because you don't know the steps to this real estate game. But if you did, now our money almost really doesn't become a factor unless we're talking about our profit margin split at the end, because you invested more than I invested in the opportunity to create the difference in our percentages. But I didn't have to fear you or be looking over my shoulder or wondering what you were going to do, because I have money for a lawyer. I know how litigation works. I see our contract. I know how contracts are written. I'm able to read the contract. I'm able to write a contract. I'm able to understand the components of what we're working on. I did the research like you were talking about earlier to know the inspector, know the assessor, know the property assessment. So there's nothing over here where I'm going to get the wool pulled over my eyes. So when I step into this partnership, I step in confidently, because not only can I see in everything that's going on, I also know how to fix anything that's going on. And I know how to get you back through the legal system if you try to pull something on me. Where we are sometimes is two things. One, the knowledge difference. And two, the inherent nature of how society makes us competitive. If you look at those other societies, there's no kill each other music. There's no, I'm a flex on you situations, right? So our whole culture, not of our own creation, but as our own perpetuation, is inherently competitive for no reason. It's the opposite of cooperative. And so I think first we have to combat the paradigm of competitiveness first and foremost. Then we have to increase the common information and realize that just because don't mean I have to not know. We both can know. We both can make money. But because our collective ideology is competitive, well, I want to beat you, because a lot of times in our lives, our situations are so negative. Any little positive gives us a feel good. That's where road rage comes from. You know what I mean? I'm gonna cut you off because I feel like I won at something, you know? So when it comes to even the money game, it's like, well, if I could have a better shoe, or if I could have a better car, if I could have a better house, like I feel better than that person, or I feel better than these people. And we're getting our self-esteem from the wrong place, but that's what we were taught to get it from. We should get our self-esteem from what you're talking about, being a positive influence in not only the community, but in others' lives. And that's where we really should feel good about ourselves versus things and products.
Yeah, agree. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Chair Long?
I think we're good, man. This was great.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it.
It was wonderful.
Thank you for coming on to the show.
Oh man, thank you for having me. It has been a pleasure, man.
I want to get you on here for a minute, but I'm glad we finally got it together.
I'm grateful that we got to get this together too. It's been a pleasure, man. I enjoy doing this. I could do it all day. I could do it all day, man.
We wouldn't do that to you.
It's my purpose. It wouldn't wear me out. I'm telling you.
But yeah, I can tell. You can tell when somebody is just doing it just for a job and when they're really into it. You seem like you're really into this.
I mean, I think it's a serious issue in the world. I feel like
Yes.
I feel like a doctor trying to cure cancer.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's where you had the idea about the company that was trying to alleviate poverty.
Yeah, the poverty. So we could do a couple, we could do a couple book things right quick. Yeah, I mean, like everything in the book is kind of just like it's there for you to see, like you know, those eye-opening things like the Poverty Reduction Research Institute. You know, it's like
Yes.
we want to get
That was interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be. You know, but I'm not afraid to search for the cure instead of profit off of band-aids. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it might be a long road to say, well, I got to start at the youth and then build them, you know, for the next 10, 15 years and the ones after them and the ones after them and the ones after them. But look at the beauty of where it may put us, you know, 20 years from now. We might not have the problem anymore that Ado just described, you know, or it'll be diminished in some way. We'll have a cooperative, like my scholarship with the 100 Black Men of America. Like these kids come together in a group as a team and read the book. And even though they go in the competition for scholarships, everyone gets the money, everyone gets the knowledge, you know? So now they're learning to work as a group and even have financial conversations. Like when was the last time that any of us like really had like a financial conversation with somebody else? When did we feel like we talk about, you know, people need therapy and stuff like that, but the reason why money is such a hard issue, right, is because you're left to your own devices, right? So let me give you an example. Are y'all good with cars?
You said we deal with cars, or
Are you good with cars?
you mean repairing cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do some things. Depends.
Okay. So if
I don't do much of nothing, but I
Okay,
can
so-
diagnose problems.
You know, the old cars were easier to work on. These new ones, I don't know. You got to be a computer tech now to work on these new ones.
All right. So all right. Can y'all fix houses? Like, if your plumbing goes out, can you fix it?
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Okay.
Nope.
If your electricity goes out, can you fix it?
Nope.
Okay. Now, if your electricity was broken, what would you do?
Call electrician.
If your car was broken down, what would you do?
You know what's wrong with it?
Call a mechanic.
When your money's broken, what do you do?
Oh Lord,
Oh, wow.
we just out of luck.
See what I'm saying? That's why the money problem is the way that it is. And this is the instruction manual. Read Me or Stay Broke is the DIY, do it yourself repair manual for your finances. Because with money, you're left to your own devices. There's no money mechanic. There's no money mechanic. The banker doesn't do it for you. The loan officer doesn't do it for you. The stock market guy, no one is going to deliberately build your wealth for you, even if you pay them. Even a financial advisor, they're going to make suggestions. They're going to do it, but you still have to pay them to do it. But that doesn't mean they're going to get you out of debt. even their financial planner, these people, that's not the money mechanic. They still can't go earn the income for you and then come back and spend it for you. There's no one to turn. You can't take your finances, bring it into the shop, and they call you when it's fixed. You can come pick it up.
I wish.
I know.
I wish, man.
And that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why money is the way it is, man. Like, you know, when you see it like that, it's like, man, this is one of the biggest problems that we have, and somebody got to do it.
Yeah, you're passionate about it. I'm like one of those. I was a project manager for many years in IT, and I have to see results along the way to understand where I am and what I need to go back and fix.
Mhm.
And if I can't see that results like that, then I'm going to lose interest as far as trying to bring somebody else along to get them to understand this is something you might need to think about. Here's the educational value to you. Here's what it's going to mean for you in the next 2 years, 3 years. But if I can't see any movement on your side, any interest on your side, real interest on your side, then I'm going to move on to the next person or the next group, because you've already demonstrated to me that you want to listen, but you don't want to do.
No, definitely. But you know what does that for me? What does that for me is our conversation that we're having right now. Right? The fact that I'm even on here right now. The fact that in 2016, Read Me or Stay Broke didn't even exist. It was just an idea in my mind. So I took the idea in my mind and then I wrote it. Then it existed in my hands. Then people started buying it. Then people started reading it. Then organizations started calling me to ask me to come explain it. It's like those come back to me as feedback. Those come back to me as like, hey, that thing that you believed about yourself, that thing you wanted to do, it's a real thing now. But before, it used to just be an idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for
buy your book and read your book too now.
Thank you so much. When I see, make sure your name is on your order so that when I see it come through in the order, I can personally sign it for you.
Okay, cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me, brother.
All right,
Thank you for coming.
Wonderful. Let me get that recording when you can. I don't know if you got to use
I will.
a big megabyte server or something like that, but let me get that.
We'll see how big it is.
I don't know. So transfer it to me how you can, you know.
I'm saving this to the computer today, not to the cloud, so it won't be that bad.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all be blessed, brother.
Do the same. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.